So, do any of you have that one friend that just doesn't think we went to the moon? Well, I have some news for them, and maybe you can too after watching this video. We have 1000% been to the moon. Like, NASA brought back like 800 pounds of lunar samples, right? So, there's that. Um, and that's from like the Apollo program, and those rocks were studied by scientists globally, right? Like everybody studied those. They have unique isotopic compositions and micro impact features not found in Earth rocks. There are certain things that make these rocks moon rocks, right? So there are actually still laser reflectors still on the moon too. There's that. Um, and basically, astronauts placed mirrors during missions like Apollo 11, and scientists still bounce lasers off of them today to measure Earth to moon distance. So you can't really, it's hard to fake equipment like that that's sitting on the moon that still works, decades later. That's kind of a reach. And I'm pretty sure you could still see American flags with satellite imaging. And there's really just tons of more blatant proof, but like, you still have these people that will tell you straight up we've never been, and it's mind blowing to me. But watch this. This is a good little video. It goes over tons of different facts and explores the Artemis mission that just went around the moon, which is super, super cool. Let's dive in.
The lunar flyby is very, very cool. We've been getting all sorts of photos from Artemis, and of course, some people want to say it's AI. I actually posted some photos of it, one of which includes Alice Cramden from The Honeymooners, because finally, Jackie Gleason just found her right and she flew all the way to the moon. But so some people are saying, because of that, they're saying the photos are AI. However, the photos are really, really beautiful. And I think we've reached peak "we never landed on the moon" conspiracy. I'll be honest, I'll be real. I'm always honest and real with you. I went through a period where I wasn't sure if we landed on the moon. I watched this long documentary that you can find on some weird, subreddit of a forum board of some dark recess of the internet. I watched it was like 2 hours long, and I got almost to the end of it, and I said, wow, we didn't land on the moon. I texted sweet little Lisa, I said, we didn't land on the moon. We didn't go to the moon. She said, what? And then I get home that night. I said, you got to watch this. We watched the end of the movie. And I said, no, that's not enough. Let's watch the whole thing. And I watched it again. And the second time I watched it, I said, oh no, we actually probably did go to the moon. Because I found holes in the conspiracy theories. And I think that is what the Artemis 2 mission is doing. I saw it take off. I was there. I know some people didn't believe me. I had to go pull the grass up behind me, stand in the sun, do jumping jacks. I said, I definitely saw this thing take off. And we're getting communications from space, and now they've flown around the moon, and they're coming back. And I think that when we landed in Apollo 8, the vast majority of people, like everybody, believed we landed on the moon. Then over the years, you had more and more people, 10%, even more than 10%, start to say we didn't land on the moon. Then when you looked at younger generations, especially the generations that had no living memory whatsoever of landing on the moon, then you started to see those numbers go up. What was it? 1 in 4 millennials didn't think we ever landed on the moon. Gen Z creeping even more in that direction. Now I think the contrarian position is, yeah, we definitely did land on the moon. And this is what interests me the most about this. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. It's very cool that there are human beings flying around the moon right now, especially that they're Americans. I love that. But what really interests me is what it means for political philosophy. Because being contrarian and being cynical is a very unstable position. There's so many contrarians. I'm a little contrarian myself. There's so many cynics now when it comes to politics. And they have good cause in a way because our government has become very self-interested. The politicians have turned away from the common good. It's a fallen world. There are always people looking out for themselves. But if you compare this era with, say, the founding era or the 19th century, politicians really do just seem to be on the make for themselves. We'll get to Eric Swalwell momentarily. But the reason that always being contrarian, always being cynical is unstable is because your positions constantly have to change to be contrary to whatever the mainstream position is. So if that was the cool contrarian thing for the last 10 years, 15 years, now I think maybe it's not. Now it's reached critical mass. It's kind of like listening to punk music, It's kind of like just being a hipster. Which is you really like the band until the band is mainstream, and now you have to hate the band because you liked the band before the band was cool. And when you look at the moon, I never thought very deeply about the space program, but the conspiracy theories don't make a lot of sense. They would make sense if all we ever claimed to have done was land on the moon one time and take a picture with the flag and then go home, and that was all. But we landed 6 times. Now you say, well, yeah, we lied 6 times. There were a dozen astronauts who walked on the moon. You say, yeah, a dozen astronauts lied. Okay, how does that explain Apollo 1? Apollo 1, where you had these astronauts who just blew up. What happened to the astronauts? If this was all a big ruse to make America look good, why did we look bad? One of the other problems with the moon conspiracies is Apollo 13, because Apollo 13 failed. And the astronauts made it home, but it failed. How do you explain that? How do you explain the Indian lunar orbiter that just within the last few years got photos of the landing sites of Apollo 11 and Apollo 12? The Indians are just trying to make us look good? I mean, I like the Indians and we have a decent relationship, but why would... And then the biggest problem for the theory that we didn't land on the moon, of course, is that the Soviet Union said we landed on the moon. The whole reason we went to the moon is because we were in a war with the Soviet Union. We were in a Cold War, and part of the Cold War was the space race, and we beat them to the moon. They beat us to space, and we beat them to the moon. If we faked it, wouldn't they have said so? That's the problem for me. And so now, it just seems to me, putting all that evidence aside, it seems to me that the contrarian view now is that we did land on the moon. Like, oh, you still think we didn't land on the moon? Just take a drag of your cigarette, be a real cool guy. You think we didn't land on the moon? Let me tell you, man, I got the real... You think you have the secret knowledge and we didn't land on the moon? I have the double secret knowledge and we did land on the moon. So the contrarian view is always going to be unstable. This is another reason why it's good to have actual principles. This is another reason why it's good to be okay being not cool. This is something my fellow conservatives, they drive me a little crazy with this, because the left is very ideologically stable. Their ideology is not stable. Their ideology goes from, Clinton Democrats to trans the kids and let the illegal Guatemalan criminals in about 20 years. But the ideology itself is just progressivism, and they're all progressive. Whereas on the right, we all have to be really special guys, We all have to be paleo, neo, post-liberal, pre-liberal, libertarian, this, that. We basically all have to find a way to say, I'm a conservative, but not that kind of conservative. Because being conservative isn't cool. Being conservative, I'm wearing a bow tie, okay? I'm doing it on purpose because I was in DC for the White House Easter egg roll. I get to wear my Easter egg bow tie at most once a year. Being conservative is just wearing Brooks Brothers, Being conservative is just holding common sense views that aren't sexy. They're just normal. They're just right. Being conservative is recognizing that the best we can hope for in politics is the second best. It's never the ideal. It's never utopia. It's always just kind of, there it is. It's always kind of shoulder shrug, isn't it?
Go check out Michael Knowles. He's awesome. Michael Knowles is great. If you like videos like this, please consider liking, subscribing, comment down below. Do you have friends that think we didn't go to the moon? I'll see you on the next one.